Today, 65 current and former prosecutors filed a legal brief to support newly elected District Attorney George Gascon's policy reforms. Crime victims and many in the police community have criticized Gascon's changes, and while he has now rolled back at least some of those reforms, some say it's still not enough. Our investigative reporter Lolita Lopez has heard from both sides.
He was just amazing, amazing brother, and I miss him every day.
We were going to grow old together, and in a matter of seconds, that is completely gone.
Families together in grief and in their journeys to bring the people accused of killing their loved ones to what they call appropriate justice.
I'd like to tell you about my father, but I was 4 years old when he was murdered.
Ryan Verna's father was killed in 1983, a police officer conducting a routine traffic stop. One of the accused killers in court Thursday, and so was Verna, a former homicide detective, and his family, for a hearing to determine if sentencing enhancements should be removed as part of a new policy from Los Angeles County District Attorney George Gascon.
Where's our rights? 37 years of going through this nonsense.
While prosecutors are following the new directives, judges have the final word on sentencing, and some question Gascon's guidelines.
His blanket policy with no individual analysis of each case does not support a conclusion that it's in the interest of justice.
Also in court this week, fighting for special circumstances to remain in their cases, Tanya Owen. Her husband, LA County Sheriff Sergeant Steve Owen, was murdered in 2016 while responding to a burglary call in Lancaster.
He didn't know my husband from Adam. The only reason he murdered my husband was for the uniform that he wore and the badge on his chest.
And Christina Solano, her brother, Sheriff Deputy Joseph Solano, was off duty when he was shot multiple times in the chest by a 30-year-old with a long criminal record outside a fast food restaurant in 2019.
This guy could get 20 to 25 years. If we don't have those gun enhancements, what's going to happen?
DA Gascon was elected in November by a large margin, running a campaign to transform the county's justice system into one focused on rehabilitation and restorative processes.
There's a mistake that is made if we're going to suggest that the interests of justice and the interests of the public are served by excessive sentencing practices.
Gascon was not available to speak to the I-Team, but his campaign director did sit down with us.
In these cases, they're all facing life in prison, and the likelihood that any of them will get out is not very high.
While it is true that the percentage of inmates who've been granted parole has decreased over the last 3 years, state data also shows the actual number of inmates granted parole has steadily increased for various reasons as the state reduces the prison population.
There is a place for rehabilitation. There absolutely is. And the thing about it is you can't just blanketly say that, hey, everybody's going to be able to be rehabilitated, because they're not.
When a prosecutor steps up and steps into court, they don't say on behalf of this victim. They say on behalf of the people.
Following initial criticism, DA Gascon scaled back his directive, now allowing some special circumstances in cases like child abuse and hate crimes. But these families have little faith in the future of their cases.
We have no trust here, and there's no expectation that anything is going to change under his watch.
For the I-Team, Lolita Lopez, NBC4 News.